Amina sat near the window of their small apartment, sorting through old books and papers. She had been searching for a job for months since finishing college, but no company had called her back. Her older sister, Nadia, came out of the bedroom looking pale and weak. "Amina," Nadia said softly, holding her head, "I don't think I can go to work today. My fever is getting worse." Amina stood up quickly. "You should rest. I'll make you tea." Nadia shook her head. "No, listen, can you do something for me? Just for one day. Please cover my shift." Amina blinked. "Cover your shift? At the mansion?" "Yes," Nadia whispered. "It's simple. You just clean the rooms. No one will even notice you." Amina hesitated. She had never worked as a maid before, and the thought of stepping into a stranger's grand house made her nervous. But when she saw Nadia sweating and weak, her heart softened. "Fine," Amina said with a sigh. "Only for today." Nadia smiled with relief. "Thank you. Just wear the uniform hanging in the closet. The driver will pick you up." The car stopped in front of a large white mansion with tall gates and shining windows. Amina stepped out, feeling small in her simple shoes. The house was so quiet that even her own footsteps sounded too loud. The head maid showed her around quickly and left her to dust the sitting room. Amina carefully arranged the cushions, glancing around at the expensive furniture. As she wiped a table, she heard soft footsteps. Turning, she saw a little girl standing in the doorway. She had wide eyes and clutched a small stuffed rabbit. "Hello," Amina said gently. "What's your name?" The girl stayed silent for a moment before whispering, "Myra." "That's a lovely name," Amina smiled. "Do you like drawing? I see crayons in your hand." Myra nodded shyly but didn't move closer. Before Amina could say more, a deep voice called from the hallway. "Myra, you should be upstairs." A tall man in a dark suit appeared. His face was calm but cold, like he was carrying a heavy weight. His eyes moved from Myra to Amina. "You're not the regular maid," he said firmly. Amina straightened. "My sister is sick today. I'm just helping for one shift." The man didn't answer right away. "Fine. Do your work and stay out of the private office," he said sharply, then turned to Myra. "Go to your room, please." Myra lowered her head and went upstairs without a word. Amina felt a strange ache in her heart. The man hadn't shouted, but his voice was so distant that even his little daughter looked afraid to speak. Hours passed as Amina cleaned the large, silent rooms. She noticed family pictures on the wall, Myra with her father and a smiling woman who was clearly no longer there. Amina guessed the truth, Myra's mother had passed away. At lunchtime, Amina went to the kitchen to drink water. She was surprised to find Myra sitting at the table, playing with her food. "Not hungry?" Amina asked kindly. Myra shrugged. "Papa is busy." Amina sat across from her. "Want me to make your sandwich into a funny shape? Like a star?" Myra's eyes lit up. "Really?" Amina nodded and quickly cut the bread into a star shape using a kitchen knife. Myra giggled softly, her first real smile that day. At that moment, the tall man entered again. His sharp eyes noticed the laughter. For a second, something warm flickered on his face, but then it disappeared. "Myra, eat properly," he said. Then to Amina, "You're done for today, yes? Leave your contact in case I need to confirm your sister's return." "Yes, sir," Amina replied politely. She felt his gaze linger for a moment, as if he was curious but didn't want to ask questions. Back home, Nadia was still lying in bed. "How was it?" she asked weakly. "The house is so quiet," Amina said thoughtfully. "The man who lives there, he seems cold. But his little girl is sweet, and also, lonely." Nadia frowned. "Be careful." Rich families don't like strangers getting too close. Just do the work and leave. Amina agreed with a small nod, but she couldn't shake Myra's sad eyes from her mind. She had gone there only to help her sister, but she already wondered about the people in that big silent mansion. What was the CEO hiding behind that cold voice? And why did a little girl with so many toys still look so alone? The next morning, Nadia was still weak. "I can't even stand properly," she whispered. "Please, Amina, just one more day. I'll tell the driver you're coming." Amina hesitated. "But what if the owner finds out?" Nadia sighed. "Just keep quiet and do the work. No one cares who dusts the tables." Amina reluctantly agreed, not for the mansion, but because she didn't want her sister to lose her job. The car dropped Amina at the tall iron gates again. Inside, the same silence greeted her. The head maid looked surprised but didn't question her presence. "Clean the upstairs lounge today," she instructed and left. Amina carried her cleaning supplies up the grand staircase. As she polished the railing, she felt eyes watching her. Turning, she saw Myra sitting on the floor at the end of the hallway, drawing on a sheet of paper. "Good morning, Myra," Amina said warmly. The little girl smiled faintly. "You came back?" "Yes, only for today," Amina answered, kneeling beside her. "What are you drawing?" Myra showed her a picture of three people holding hands: herself, a tall man, and a woman in a long dress. Above it, she had drawn a big sun with a smiley face. "Is this your family?" Amina asked softly. Myra nodded. "Mama used to draw with me. Now Papa is busy." Amina's heart ached. "It's a beautiful drawing," she whispered. Just then, footsteps echoed in the hall. Omar appeared, wearing another dark suit, phone in hand. His voice was calm but sharp as he spoke to someone about meetings and deadlines. When he hung up, his gaze fell on Amina crouched beside Myra. "You again," he said flatly. "My sister is still unwell," Amina explained quickly. "I didn't want her to lose her job." Omar didn't respond for a moment. His eyes moved to Myra's drawing. "You should be finishing your breakfast," he told his daughter. Myra gathered her papers and slipped away without a word. Omar turned to Amina. "Just do your work quietly. I don't like strangers distracting my daughter." Amina bit back a reply and simply nodded. She wondered why he always spoke as if kindness were a crime. Later, while dusting the library shelves, Amina heard soft humming. Following the sound, she found Myra sitting on a window seat, swinging her legs. The child's small voice trembled as she tried to sing. "Do you like music?" Amina asked. Myra nodded. "Mama used to sing to me before bed." Amina smiled gently. "I can sing too, but I'm not very good." "Please." Myra whispered. Amina sang a soft lullaby her mother used to sing to her and Nadia. Myra listened with wide eyes, holding her stuffed rabbit tightly. For the first time, she looked peaceful. Unnoticed by Amina, Omar stood in the doorway watching. His expression softened, but only for a moment. He turned away before they could see him. By afternoon, Nadia called. "I'm still sick," she said weakly. "Can you go again tomorrow?" Amina sighed. "Nadia, this is becoming more than one shift." "I know," Nadia said. "But I can't lose this job. The man is strict." Amina looked around the silent mansion. Myra's small footsteps echoed somewhere above, and Omar's heavy voice murmured through a phone call in the office. "All right," Amina whispered at last. "I'll stay until you're better." That evening, while clearing the dining table, Amina found a sketch lying under Myra's plate. It showed the same family of three, but this time the woman was colored in gray while the man and child were bright. "She's gone," Myra whispered, appearing behind her. "That's why I used gray." Amina knelt down. "Do you miss your mother?" Myra nodded silently. Her eyes filled with tears she tried to hide. Amina pulled out a napkin and gently wiped them away. "It's okay to miss her. She would be proud of you." Myra hugged her suddenly, surprising Amina. At that exact moment, Omar entered the room. He froze, watching his daughter cling to the maid. "I told you not to," Omar began sharply, but then stopped when he saw Myra's trembling shoulders. Amina stood quickly, stepping back. "She just needed comfort," she said softly. Omar's face tightened, as if he wanted to argue but couldn't find the words. Finally, he said only, "Finish up and leave when you're done." Then he picked Myra up gently, though his voice stayed quiet this time. On the ride home, Amina stared out the car window. The mansion wasn't just rich, it was sad. Back in their apartment, Nadia asked, "So, how was the second day?" Amina shook her head. "The little girl, she's so lonely. And her father, he's like ice. But I don't think he's bad. I think he's just hurt." Nadia frowned. "Amina, don't get too close. Rich people's problems are not ours." But Amina didn't answer. In her heart, she knew she couldn't just walk away, not while a little girl's smile depended on her visits. Amina returned to the mansion for the third day, her heart steady but curious. Nadia was still coughing badly and begged her again to fill in. Amina didn't argue this time. She wanted to see Myra. When she arrived, the house was once again quiet. The head maid simply nodded, already used to her presence. Amina carried her cleaning supplies to the main hall, but before she could start dusting, she saw Omar sitting in the corner of the lounge with a laptop. He looked different today, less strict, more tired. His tie was loosened, and there was a cup of untouched coffee on the table. "Good morning," Amina said politely. Omar glanced at her, surprised. "Morning. Where's your sister?" "Still unwell," Amina replied. "I'll stay until she recovers." Omar only nodded and returned to his screen. Amina quietly went about her work, careful not to disturb him. Later in the day, Myra found Amina in the garden. The little girl was holding a small kite. "Do you know how to fly this?" Myra asked hopefully. Amina smiled. "Yes, my father taught me when I was your age." "Want me to show you?" Myra nodded eagerly. Together they ran across the grass as Amina held the string high. The kite lifted into the air, and Myra laughed loudly, a sound that filled the empty mansion with life. Unnoticed, Omar stood at the window, watching. His usual coldness softened as he saw his daughter running freely, something she hadn't done in months. When the kite came down, Amina crouched beside Myra. "You're really good at this. Maybe next time we can make one ourselves." Myra's face lit up. "Promise." "Promise," Amina said, tying the string carefully. That evening, as Amina dusted the shelves in the study, Omar walked in. He seemed hesitant but finally spoke. "My daughter, she doesn't laugh often," he said quietly. "But today, she did." Amina looked up, surprised at his softer tone. "She just needs someone to play with. Children want love more than toys." Omar sighed, sitting behind his desk. "I'm trying. But it's hard, running a company and raising her alone." Amina hesitated, then said gently, "You're doing your best. But sometimes, being present matters more than being perfect." Her words hung in the air. Omar stared at her for a moment, as if unsure how to respond. Then his phone rang sharply. He answered in his usual brisk voice, discussing contracts and meetings. Amina quietly returned to her work, but a small smile touched her lips. She had seen a different side of him, if only for a second. The next day, Amina overheard Myra humming in the hallway and joined her. They sat on the stairs, coloring together. Myra told her small stories about her toys and how she missed her mother's bedtime songs. While they talked, Amina's phone rang. It was Nadia, checking in. "Are you managing? Don't let anyone know you're not the real maid," Nadia whispered. "I'm fine," Amina said softly. "Just hurry and get well." Unaware that Omar had just entered the hall, Amina continued talking. He heard her mention, "The house feels so cold sometimes, but Myra is so sweet." When Amina hung up, she turned to see Omar standing there, his expression unreadable. "Who were you talking to?" he asked sharply. "My sister," Amina replied calmly. "I was just telling her you have a beautiful home." Omar frowned. "I hope you're not discussing my personal life with others." Amina's chest tightened. "I would never do that. I only spoke about Myra, nothing else." But Omar's cold eyes stayed on her. "Do your job and leave the talking to a minimum," he said, walking away. That evening, Amina told Nadia what happened. "He thinks I'm gossiping," she said, frustrated. "I only care about Myra." Nadia sighed. "I warned you not to get involved. Just finish the work and come home. Don't let them push you into trouble." But Amina couldn't stop thinking about Myra's smile when the kite flew, or Omar's brief look of gratitude earlier that day. He wasn't heartless, just guarded, like someone hiding pain behind a locked door. The next morning, Myra met Amina at the staircase. "Are you leaving soon?" the little girl asked anxiously. "Not yet," Amina said with a smile. "Why?" "Because when you're here, Papa doesn't look so sad," Myra whispered. Amina's heart softened. She knelt to Myra's level. "Your father loves you more than anything. He's just busy. But he's trying." Myra nodded, trusting her completely. Unbeknown to both, Omar stood at the top of the stairs, overhearing their quiet conversation. His stern face showed a flicker of emotion, something between guilt and gratitude. He turned away before they could see him. Amina left that day feeling conflicted. Omar's mistrust stung, yet she couldn't walk away from Myra's innocent eyes. Something told her there was more to this family than a rich man and his lonely child. And deep inside the cold mansion, Omar himself wondered why a simple maid's words kept echoing in his mind long after she was gone. It was a rainy afternoon when Amina arrived at the mansion again. She had planned to stay only a few hours, finish her cleaning, and go home early. But as soon as she stepped inside, she sensed something was wrong. The usually quiet house felt even heavier. The head maid met her at the door. "Myra has a fever," she whispered. "She hasn't eaten all day. Mr. Omar is worried but refuses to leave his office." Amina hurried upstairs. In Myra's room, the little girl lay curled up on her bed, her cheeks flushed and her forehead hot to the touch. "Myra, sweetheart," Amina said softly, placing a cool cloth on her head. "How are you feeling?" "Cold, and hot, both," Myra murmured weakly. Amina's heart tightened. "Don't worry. I'll stay with you." Minutes later, Omar appeared in the doorway, his usually calm face full of tension. "The doctor is on the way," he said quickly. "Did she say anything?" "She just feels weak," Amina replied gently. "I'm keeping her cool until help arrives." Omar nodded but stayed silent, standing awkwardly near the bed. His phone rang again, and he stepped into the hall to answer. Amina heard his voice firm with his staff, yet unsteady beneath. When the doctor arrived, he examined Myra carefully. "It's just a strong fever," he said. "Give her medicine, keep her hydrated, and make sure she rests. She should recover in a day or two." After the doctor left, Omar rubbed his forehead, looking exhausted. "Thank you for staying with her," he murmured to Amina, his usual cold tone softened. "I'll stay as long as you need," Amina said firmly. "She shouldn't be alone tonight." Omar looked at her for a long moment but said nothing more. As evening fell, Myra woke crying from a bad dream. Amina sat on the bed, humming softly until the child calmed down. She held her tiny hand and wiped her damp forehead. When Omar returned with a tray of soup and medicine, he paused at the doorway. Amina was whispering gentle words, her voice calm and warm. Myra's fingers stayed wrapped around hers even in sleep. "You have a way with her," Omar said quietly as he set the tray down. Amina glanced up. "Children just need to feel safe." He gave a small, tired nod. "I try, but I'm not good at this. I'm used to solving problems with meetings and contracts, not lullabies." Amina smiled softly. "You're doing more than you think. She knows you love her." For a moment, the air between them felt different, less guarded, more human. Omar sat in the armchair beside the bed, loosening his tie. "My wife," he began, then hesitated. "She passed away 2 years ago. I was at work when it happened. I still can't forgive myself." Amina's heart ached at his words. "You were doing what you thought was best for your family," she said gently. "But Myra doesn't blame you. She just wants her father." Omar looked at his sleeping daughter, his face heavy with guilt. "Sometimes I don't know if I'm enough for her." "You are," Amina said simply. "You just need to be here, not perfect, just present." The hours passed slowly. Amina read Myra a story, gave her medicine, and sang until she slept peacefully again. Omar stayed nearby, silent but grateful. The mansion, once cold and distant, felt warmer that night with two people watching over a little girl. At midnight, Amina prepared to leave, but Omar stopped her. "It's late," he said. "Stay in the guest room. I'll have the driver take you home in the morning." Amina hesitated, then nodded. "All right." Before dawn, Amina woke and checked on Myra. The fever had started to break, and the child was breathing more easily. Omar was asleep in the armchair, his head leaning against his hand. The man who always appeared strong and untouchable now looked vulnerable, like any father worried for his child. Amina quietly adjusted the blanket around Myra and whispered, "You're going to be fine." As she turned to leave, Omar stirred awake. "Is she better?" he asked quickly. "Yes," Amina said with a small smile. "She's sleeping peacefully now." Omar exhaled in relief. "Thank you, Amina. I don't usually let people stay close. But tonight, I'm glad you were here." Amina was taken aback by his honesty. "I was happy to help. Myra is a wonderful little girl." For the first time since they met, Omar's expression softened completely. "And you're not what I expected," he admitted. "Most people notice the house, the money. You only notice her." "She's the only one who matters here," Amina replied. There was a pause. Then Omar gave a faint smile, small, but real. When morning came, Myra woke up smiling weakly. "You stayed," she whispered to Amina. "Of course I did," Amina said warmly. "And I'll visit until your mama." She stopped herself quickly, remembering Myra no longer had a mother. "Until your father says you're strong enough to chase kites again." Myra giggled softly, the sound like sunlight in the room. Omar stood near the window, watching them. Something unspoken passed through his eyes, a mixture of gratitude, guilt, and something else he couldn't name yet. For the first time, Amina felt the wall around him beginning to crack. The next few days passed quietly, with Myra slowly recovering. Amina continued to come, even though Nadia insisted she didn't have to. "You've done enough," Nadia said. "I'm better now. I can go back." But Amina shook her head. "Let me stay until Myra is completely well. She needs a friendly face." At the mansion, life seemed calmer. Myra followed Amina around like a little shadow, and even Omar appeared more relaxed. He no longer spoke to Amina in the sharp tone he once used. Sometimes, She even caught him watching her as she played with Myra in the garden or read to her in the lounge. But not everyone in the house approved. The other staff whispered behind Amina's back. "She's too close to the child," one maid murmured in the kitchen. "I heard the master spoke to her politely," another added in disbelief. "It's strange. She's not even the regular maid. Why is she here so long?" Amina overheard their words one afternoon while carrying fresh sheets. She felt her cheeks burn but said nothing. She was there for Myra, not to please everyone else. That evening, as Amina passed Omar's study, she noticed the door slightly open. His voice was low and tense as he spoke on the phone. "I can't lose this deal, Kareem. If the investors pull out, the company will take a hit." "No, I'll handle it myself." Amina quickly walked away, not wanting to intrude. But Omar stepped out moments later and caught her in the hallway. "What were you doing here?" he asked sharply. "I was just going to put clean sheets in the guest room," Amina explained calmly. Omar's eyes narrowed. "Did you hear my call?" "I didn't mean to," she said honestly. "I wasn't listening." His expression hardened. "I told you before, I don't like people discussing my family or my business. Stay out of matters that don't concern you." The words hit Amina harder than she expected. After everything, the nights she stayed by Myra's bed, the hours spent cheering her up, he still didn't trust her. "I'm only here to help," she said quietly. "But maybe you don't want that." She turned and walked away, holding back the sting in her eyes. Later that night, Nadia called. "How's it going? Are they treating you well?" Amina hesitated. "I think I should stop going, Nadia. Mr. Omar doesn't want me around." "But what about Myra?" Nadia asked softly. Amina swallowed. "I can't upset him. It's his house, his rules. I'll go tomorrow, say goodbye, and leave." Unaware of their conversation, Myra stood at the top of the stairs, clutching her stuffed rabbit. She had heard enough to understand. Her eyes filled with tears. The next morning, Myra refused to eat her breakfast. She sat quietly at the table, pushing her food around with a spoon. Omar noticed. "What's wrong, Myra?" he asked, crouching to her level. The little girl shook her head. "Is Amina going away?" Omar frowned. "Why would you think that?" "I heard her," Myra whispered. "She said she's leaving." "Don't let her go, Papa. Please." Omar froze. The thought of his daughter losing the only person who had brought color back to her days made his chest tighten. When Amina arrived later that day, Myra ran to her and hugged her tightly. "Don't go," she cried. "Papa will say sorry, I promise." Amina knelt down, startled. "Myra, it's not your fault. I just think it's time for me to go back home." Omar appeared behind them, looking uncomfortable. "Myra, go to your room for a minute," he said gently. When the child left, Omar faced Amina. "You're leaving?" Amina stood up straight. "You made it clear you don't trust me." "I don't want to stay where I'm not welcome." There was a long silence. Omar looked conflicted, as if fighting with himself. Finally, he said quietly, "I spoke out of fear, not anger. I'm not used to people being in my private life. But I shouldn't have spoken to you that way." Amina blinked, surprised by his sudden honesty. "I was only trying to help Myra. She deserves someone who listens." Omar lowered his gaze. "You're right. I've been so focused on my work that I forgot what she truly needs." The tension eased slightly, but Amina's heart still ached. She loved being with Myra, but Omar's mistrust lingered in her mind. That evening, as she packed up to leave, Myra came running with a small drawing. It showed three people holding hands, a tall man, a little girl, and a young woman with long hair. Above them, Myra had written, My family. Amina's throat tightened. Oh, Myra, Omar saw the picture too. His expression softened, but he said nothing. Something in his eyes, however, told Amina he wasn't as cold as he pretended to be. As Amina left the mansion that night, she wondered if she had the strength to stay, or if walking away would hurt more than being misunderstood. The next morning was cold and quiet. A soft fog covered the city, and inside the tall apartment building, Nadia stood by the window, staring at the street below. She had barely slept. Her thoughts had been chasing each other all night about her sister, about the lies she had told, and about Kamal. When the phone buzzed on the table, Nadia jumped. It was a message from Lila. I am going to work today. Are you okay? Nadia quickly typed back, yes. Be careful. Nadia knew she could not go on like this. She had been pretending to be her sister to help her, but now it was more than that. She cared about Kamal and his little daughter, Noor. She cared too much. Later that morning, she returned to Kamal's home to finish the shift. Noor ran to her, holding a small drawing. Look. I made this for you, she said, smiling with all the innocence of a child. Nadia knelt down and took the drawing. It's beautiful, she whispered, fighting back tears. Thank you, Noor. Kamal appeared from his study, holding a cup of coffee. His eyes were tired but warm. Nadia, can we talk? Her heart skipped. She nodded slowly, leaving Noor in the living room with her toys. They sat at the dining table. The silence between them was heavy, like a curtain no one wanted to lift. Kamal spoke first. I know you've been helping your sister. I found out yesterday, he said gently, not accusing her. You are not Lila. Nadia froze. I was only trying to help her. She couldn't come to work, and she needed the money. I didn't mean to lie to you, Kamal. He leaned forward, his voice soft but firm. You should have told me. Do you know how dangerous it is to live like this, hiding the truth? But, he sighed. I also know you've been honest in your heart. Noor talks about you all the time. She trusts you. And I do too. Tears welled in Nadia's eyes. I didn't want to lose this job. I didn't want Lila to get in trouble. And I didn't expect to care about Noor. Or you. Her voice broke. Kamal looked at her carefully, almost as if trying to read her soul. You've cared for us more than anyone else in a long time, he admitted. Since my wife passed away, people have only seen me as the CEO, not as a father who is lost. But you saw Noor. You saw me. The room was silent again, but this time it was filled with understanding. I can't let you take the blame for helping your sister, Kamal said finally. If anyone needs to explain to the company, I'll handle it. Nadia shook her head. No. I'll tell them the truth. I started this. I'll finish it. At that moment, Noor came running in. Papa, are you sad? She asked, looking between them. Kamal quickly smiled and lifted her into his arms. No, my love. We're just talking. Nadia forced a smile too, but her heart ached. This little family had found its way into her life, and now everything was about to change. Later that evening, Nadia walked home slowly. The streets were glowing with orange light from the setting sun. She thought about her sister's tired face, about Kamal's honest words, and about Noor's laugh. When she reached home, Lila was waiting by the door. You look upset, Lila said immediately. What happened? Nadia took a deep breath. He knows. Kamal knows I'm not you. Lila covered her mouth in shock. What did he say? Did he fire you? No, Nadia whispered. He was kind. Too kind. But I have to tell the truth to his company tomorrow. I can't keep lying. Lila's eyes filled with tears. You did this for me. I should be the one to explain. Nadia held her sister's hands. We'll do this together. The next day, at Kamal's office building, Nadia walked in nervously, her hands cold despite the warm sun. Kamal was waiting by the elevator. He gave her a reassuring nod, as if to say, "You are not alone." They entered the conference room where the head of staff was already waiting. Before anyone could speak, Nadia stepped forward. "I have something to say," she began, her voice steady despite the fear in her chest. "I worked here under my sister's name. I know it was wrong. I just wanted to help her. I'm ready to take whatever punishment you decide." The room was silent. The manager looked surprised, but Kamal spoke before anyone else could. "She is telling the truth," he said calmly. "And I want to make it clear that I requested she stay. She has done her work with honesty and care." Nadia looked at him with wide eyes. He was protecting her again. The manager nodded slowly. "This is unusual," he said, "but since Mr. Kamal supports you, we will let it go with a warning. Please do not repeat such actions." Relief washed over Nadia like rain on dry soil. She bowed her head. "Thank you. I promise I will never lie again." Outside the office, Kamal smiled faintly. "See? You faced it with courage." Nadia smiled back, but her heart was heavy. She wondered what would happen next. Was this the end of her time with Kamal and Noor? Or was it the beginning of something she didn't dare dream about? The morning sun filtered through the tall windows of the mansion. Amina walked up the driveway, her heart beating a little faster than usual. Today felt different. It wasn't just another shift. She had helped Myra recover, faced Omar's mistrust, and seen a side of him that no one else knew. She paused at the front door. Omar opened it almost immediately, as if he had been waiting. His face was calm, but his eyes held a softness she had never seen before. "Good morning," he said, his voice quiet but steady. "I wanted to speak with you before you start your work today." Amina nodded, surprised but curious. "Yes, sir." He stepped aside, gesturing for her to enter. The house felt warmer somehow, filled with the faint scent of flowers from the garden. Myra ran past them, holding her stuffed rabbit tightly. "Don't forget breakfast, Myra," Omar said, but there was a smile in his voice that made Amina pause. Once Myra went upstairs to finish her meal, Omar closed the door behind them and turned to her. "I owe you an apology," he began. "I've been unfair. I judged you too quickly and didn't see what you were really trying to do." Amina shook her head. "It's all right. I understand. You're used to protecting your daughter, and I was a stranger." "No," Omar said firmly. "It's more than that. You stayed with Myra, helped her, and even protected her happiness. That means more to me than I can express." Amina felt her chest tighten. "I only wanted her to smile. That's all." Omar smiled faintly, his usual distance gone. "It's never just all right. You've changed our lives, mine and Myra's." Myra ran down the stairs, waving a piece of paper. "Look, Amina. I drew something for you." Amina knelt down, her eyes lighting up. Myra held out a drawing of three people standing in a sunlit garden: herself, her father, and Amina. Above them she had written, "My family is happy." Tears pricked Amina's eyes. "Oh, Myra, this is beautiful," she whispered, hugging the little girl gently. Omar watched silently from a distance. Then he walked closer, his voice soft. "I see what I almost lost. I can't imagine her happiness without you here." Amina looked at him, unsure of what he meant. "I want you to stay," he said, meeting her gaze. "Not as a temporary helper, not as someone filling a gap. I want you to be part of our family, Myra's family, my life. You don't have to be a maid here. If you want, I can offer you a proper role in the household and in our lives. Amina blinked, shocked. Her heart raced. I. I don't know what to say. Say yes, Myra whispered, tugging her hand. Please say yes. That afternoon, Omar showed Amina a small office in the mansion that had been empty for years. This will be your space, he said. You can work, help Myra, and be part of everything without feeling like a stranger. You have my full trust. Amina walked around the room, imagining herself there, helping Myra grow, supporting Omar, and becoming a part of something she hadn't even dared to dream about. I. I would be honored, she said softly, her voice trembling with happiness. Omar smiled, a rare, genuine smile. Good. Let's start fresh, then. No misunderstandings, no walls between us. Just trust and care. Myra jumped into Amina's arms again. I'm so happy, she exclaimed, laughing. The days that followed were filled with warmth. Amina helped Myra with her schoolwork, played in the garden, and even cooked small meals for them. Omar, though still busy with work, found himself staying longer in the house, smiling at little moments he used to miss. One evening, as the three of them sat together painting in the living room, Omar spoke quietly. I never thought I could trust someone outside my family again. But you changed that for me. Amina smiled. Sometimes, people just need a chance. And sometimes, hearts heal when you least expect it. Myra clapped her hands. And I love you, Amina. Omar watched the little girl's laughter, feeling something he hadn't felt in years: hope. For the first time since his wife passed away, he believed that happiness could return to their home, and he wasn't alone anymore. Weeks later, Nadia came by to visit. She smiled at the scene before her, Omar reading to Myra, Amina helping her draw, and the house filled with laughter and life. You've done so much, Nadia said quietly. Amina looked at her sister, smiling. Sometimes, helping someone else becomes helping yourself too. Omar walked past them and gently placed a hand on Amina's shoulder. Thank you, he said simply, meaning every word. In that quiet mansion, where once silence had ruled, love, trust, and care had returned. Amina had come for one day, but she had stayed for a lifetime, changing hearts and forming a family that would face the future together.